Well, it's starting to look like James Gunn and DC Studios might pick up that ball that the MCU dropped. James Gunn and Peter Safran held what they called a State of the Studio address, where they updated everyone on the production and development of the current crop of DC Comics adaptations. I honestly haven't followed any of this all that much, so a lot of it was news to me. Obviously, Superman is due out this summer. However, the second season of Peacemaker is also coming out this summer. I'm not sure how Peacemaker is going to work since it was tied to the Snyderverse. I liked the first season, but with it being in this strange limbo with the reboot, I'm iffy on how the second season will play out. Then there's the Supergirl movie, which is adapting Tom King's story. I didn't read the comic, I pretty much avoid everything by Tom King, so I really don't know what the comic was about, but the movie is supposed to be a space fantasy, whatever that means. If they can get all the Tom Kingness out of the story, I might check it out, but if it's King's usual mommy issues nonsense, then I'm out. Either way, it's due out in 2026. Then there's The Lanterns, the Green Lantern TV show, which just started filming, and it's also due out in 2026. I'm not that much of a Green Lantern fan, but I think I'll check this out. One that totally surprised me was the Clayface movie, which is supposed to be a body horror take on the Batman villain. This seems to be in the new main universe, not an Elseworld take on the character, so I'm interested to see how that'll play out tonally with the rest of the films and shows. A couple of projects were put on the back burner, namely Swamp Thing and The Authority. Swamp Thing got bumped because the writer/director James Mangold is working on a Star Wars movie, so he's not available. From what I could find, The Authority may have got bumped because of The Boys, which is very similar in tone and a little bit in theme, so DC Studios might be trying to avoid the comparison. It'd also be hard to do a tamed down version of The Authority and do it justice, so if the goal is to keep the new DC films PG or PG-13, at least for now, I can understand them backing off. There's also all the drama with Warren Ellis, which would probably die down by the time the film went into production, but I could also see some of the pettier people bringing it back up just to crash the project. Considering that right now pretty much anything with Neil Gaiman is either cancelled or on hold, I would imagine that anything involving Warren Ellis would get the same treatment. There's also a couple of other interesting films in the works, like Dynamic Duo, which isn't about Batman and Robin, but instead Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. From what I could find, it's supposed to be animated by Swaybox, with a combination of stop-motion puppetry and CGI. I couldn't find out anything about Swaybox outside of them getting the film and some animation tests. If anybody knows about their projects, let me know because I'd love to see how they combine these methods in a full film, not just a test. Dynamic Duo isn't the only animation in the works. DC Studios has 3 upcoming shows, My Adventures with Green Lantern, DC Superpowers, and Starfire, all of them aimed at a younger audience. I think they're a touch late with Starfire. That would have done well 10 years ago, but now the Teen Titan fans are all hitting their 30s. Might want to let that one go. Wait, on second thought, no, keep it. They haven't had something that they loved as a kid get updated for a new generation. It's their turn to see how it feels when it happens to them. Please, continue. Wait, I just remember Teen Titans Go. Know what? Fuck it. Do it again. They need to experience it more than once, just like us 80s babies. Anyway, there are a couple of other projects in the works that I'm not that interested in, like the Sergeant Rock film and the Teen Titans live-action movie. But I am interested in the Batman reboot, The Brave and the Bold. Damian Wayne will be Robin, and supposedly is based on Grant Morrison's Batman run. Now, that's interesting because for a while Dick Grayson took over as Batman, and you had Batman Incorporated, but from what I could find, the movie will have Bruce Wayne as Batman. This will be a new thing on many fronts. 1, is potentially establishing multiple Robins right from the outset. 2, it'll be the first time a film features a young Robin, assuming the actor is actually a kid. And 3, it'll be the first time there'll be 2 Batman film series running at the same time, because Matt Reeves' Batman sequel is due out in 2027. It's possible that The Brave and the Bold could come out around that time, either before or shortly after. This will be the test to see whether it confuses people. If it doesn't, it could open the door for more Elseworld stories featuring main characters, like Superman. One that I'd love to see is Superman Red Son. I think that's perfect for a live-action adaptation. Another great one, obviously, would be The Dark Knight Returns. A fun one would be DC New Frontier, although that might end up being used for the main universe. It kind of fits with the tone James Gunn said he wanted to set with the reboot. Overall, I think DC Studios is shaping up pretty good, and that's mostly because it sounds like Gunn and Safran aren't just copying the Marvel formula. Gunn mentioned that they're making standalone projects so you won't have to watch everything in order for the one film you're interested in to make sense. That would be awesome. He also said, quote, "We are writer-driven. We are not going to greenlight or put anything into production until we are happy with the script. It is hard enough to make a good movie with a good script. It's almost impossible to make a movie with a script that you're writing on the run. That's been an issue with the MCU, where they've got the films planned out, release dates set, but often unfinished scripts. They don't give a lot of wiggle room for the directors or the writers. This is why so few of the MCU films have notable artistic visions. Everything has to connect, so the films can't be tonally different or unique. It sounds like Gunn wants to avoid that, maybe because of his experiences with Marvel Studios, and I think that could play to DC Studios' advantage. Each film could have their own tone, but still allow for the characters to eventually form the Justice League. That's how it works in the comics, and there's no reason that it couldn't work on screen, unless they're wildly different, like Star Wars versus Spaceballs different. So I'm cautiously optimistic about the direction of DC Studios. I'd love for some of these movies to be fun, but also capture some of that hyperrealism that made the better X-Men films work. If the DC films are as good as, say, Days of Future Past, that's good enough for me. I'd love to have a Logan, but I don't want to press my luck. Let's see if we can just get an X-Men First Class out of them, and then see where it goes from there. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.